My name is Martin Wilkinson, and I had a near-death experience that changed everything I thought I knew about life, reality, and the nature of existence. It began on a seemingly ordinary autumn evening in October 1986. I was on my way home from work, riding my bicycle as the sun dipped below the horizon. The wind was brisk, carrying with it the crispness of fallen leaves and the hum of the day settling into night. As I cycled down a long decline, the road curved sharply to the right. It was a familiar route, one I had taken countless times. But as I approached the curve, I saw headlights bearing down on me from the opposite direction. A car was speeding recklessly, veering into my lane. The driver didn't seem to see me, or if they did, it was already too late. The car took the turn too wide, and I had no time to react. The collision was unavoidable. I remember the impact vividly, but not in the way you might expect. One moment, I was on my bike, bracing for the inevitable, and the next, I felt a sudden, indescribable lightness. The physical world disappeared, and I found myself enveloped in a sea of radiant, glistening light. This light wasn't harsh or blinding, it was warm, vibrant, and alive. It surrounded me completely, yet it didn't overwhelm me. Instead, it felt as though I had been welcomed into a realm that existed just beyond the veil of the physical world. I floated weightlessly, my body no longer bound by gravity or pain. I was in a state of being that defies description, a balance of peace, warmth, and harmony that transcended anything I had ever experienced. My senses were heightened, yet I felt calm, as if I were precisely where I was meant to be. The light that surrounded me shimmered with colors I can't fully describe, hues that seemed to vibrate and pulse with energy. As I began to take in my surroundings, I realized something astonishing. My body, or rather, what I perceived as my body, was no longer the flesh and blood form I had known all my life. Instead, it was transparent, glowing with a brilliance that outshone even the radiant light around me. This realization didn't frighten me, it fascinated me. How could I, an ordinary man, emanate such light? It was as though my very essence reflected the energy of this otherworldly realm. To orient myself, I looked down at my feet. As I did, the gentle wave-like motion that carried me began to settle, and I became aware of standing on a platform made entirely of light. It wasn't a physical surface, but it supported me nonetheless. Around me, the shimmering light seemed to hum with a symphony of vibrations, each note resonating with warmth and love. It felt as though the very fabric of this place was alive, inviting me to explore and understand. Then, with a simple thought, a curiosity about where I was, I found myself drawn downward. As though my consciousness had willed my movement, the light shifted, and suddenly, I was hovering above the scene of the accident. From this vantage point, I could see my physical body lying on the road, surrounded by a small crowd of people. They were trying desperately to revive me, their voices filled with urgency and fear. At first, I didn't recognize the body on the ground as mine. It was as though I were observing a stranger. But then, a spark of familiarity stirred within me, and the truth became clear. The lifeless form below was me. The realization wasn't shocking or painful, it was simply an undeniable fact. I watched as the people around my body worked tirelessly, their emotions radiating in waves that I could feel as though they were my own. As I focused on the individuals of the scene, I became aware of something extraordinary. Each person emitted a unique light, a subtle aura of colors that seemed to correspond to their emotional states. Those who were calm and compassionate radiated soft, pastel hues, gentle and soothing. In contrast, those who were panicked or fearful emitted darker, more condensed energies, creating shadows that seemed to cling to them. The energy radiating from my own body was still strong, despite the apparent absence of life. When my light intersected with theirs, I experienced a profound connection. I could feel their thoughts, emotions, and even their life experiences as though they were my own. This connection wasn't invasive, it was enlightening, a shared understanding that transcended words. It was during this moment that I felt a surge of energy unlike anything I had ever known. It was as if an electric current had been sent through me, igniting a powerful realization. I was not my physical body. The essence of who I was, my soul, was something far greater, something eternal. My physical form was merely a temporary vessel, a means of experiencing the material world. The freedom I felt in this realization was indescribable, a release from every burden I had ever carried. As I hovered above the scene, I began to see beyond the physical world. Solid objects, cars, trees, the very ground, appeared translucent, their energy vibrating in patterns that were both intricate and harmonious. I understood that what we perceive as solid matter is, at its core, composed of energy, slowed down to a frequency that allows it to take form. This revelation was both awe-inspiring and humbling, a glimpse into the interconnectedness of all creation. I then felt myself being drawn upward again, back toward the platform of light where my journey had begun. The pull was gentle yet irresistible, as though I were being called home. As I ascended, the light grew warmer and more vibrant, enveloping me in a sense of belonging that defied description. I felt as though I were being prepared for something greater, a continuation of the journey that had only just begun. When I returned to the light, I noticed 5 distinct silhouettes appearing before me. They were beings of light, their forms radiant and translucent, exuding a purity that filled me with both awe and comfort. These beings, I instinctively knew, were my guides, entities who had been with me throughout my life. Unseen but ever present, their presence was familiar, like reuniting with old friends after a long absence. We communicated without words, our thoughts and emotions exchanged through pulses of light and color. This form of communication was instantaneous and pure, free from misunderstanding or misinterpretation. The beings conveyed a sense of purpose, an assurance that everything I was experiencing was part of a greater plan. As they surrounded me, I felt my energy being elevated, my vibrations aligning with theirs. It was as if I were being prepared for the next phase of my journey, a journey that would take me deeper into the mysteries of existence. Though I didn't know what lay ahead, I felt no fear, only curiosity and a profound sense of trust. The beings of light began to focus their energy on me, their combined radiance creating a cocoon of warmth and peace. As I surrendered to their guidance, I felt myself being drawn into an even higher vibration, a realm where the boundaries of time and space no longer applied. This was only the beginning of an extraordinary journey, one that would forever alter my understanding of life, death, and the infinite reality beyond. As I stood enveloped in the radiant light, surrounded by the 5 luminous beings who emanated warmth and familiarity, I felt a profound connection unlike anything I had ever known. Their presence was soothing yet powerful, as if their very essence communicated love, wisdom, and unity. I realized they were here to guide me on the next step of my journey, though I didn't fully understand what that would entail. Without speaking, the beings communicated with me through waves of energy and pulsating light. Each pulse carried meaning, thoughts, emotions, and ideas, far more vivid and immediate than spoken words could ever convey. It was a language of pure intention, where nothing was hidden or misunderstood. Through this exchange, I came to understand that they had always been with me, watching, guiding, and protecting, though I had been unaware of their presence during my physical life. One of the light beings stepped forward, its form glowing with an intensity that seemed to pulse in harmony with my own energy. I felt an instant recognition, though I couldn't place where or how I had known this being before. It was as if we shared a bond that transcended lifetimes, a connection rooted in something eternal. Through this being's energy, I sensed an invitation to move forward, to explore what lay beyond the radiant platform. As I focused on the being's guidance, I felt the vibrations around me shift. The warm, glowing light seemed to dissolve, replaced by a swirling tunnel of energy. This tunnel was unlike anything I could have imagined, a spiraling conduit of light and color that moved with an indescribable rhythm. The vibrations intensified, and I felt myself being drawn into the tunnel, propelled by a force that was both external and internal. It wasn't a journey of physical movement but of consciousness, as though my very essence was traveling through realms of existence. The speed at which I traveled was beyond comprehension, yet I felt no discomfort or disorientation. Instead, I was filled with a sense of anticipation and curiosity. The light beings accompanied me, their presence a steady reassurance. The tunnel seemed to vibrate with music, not notes as we know them, but a symphony of energy that resonated with my soul. It was as if the entire journey was orchestrated, each moment perfectly aligned with a greater purpose. As I emerged from the tunnel, I found myself in a new realm of breathtaking beauty. The light here was different, softer yet more vibrant, as though every color carried its own unique life force. The environment was both familiar and otherworldly, a landscape of rolling hills, crystal clear rivers, and an endless sky that seemed to shimmer with stars even in daylight. Everything around me radiated harmony and balance, as if the very fabric of this place was woven from love and peace. The 5 light beings stood beside me, their forms now even more radiant, blending seamlessly with the luminous surroundings. They guided me to a high plateau that overlooked a valley bathed in golden light. From this vantage point, I could see what appeared to be a radiant city in the distance, its structures glowing with an inner brilliance. Though I didn't know what this place was, I felt an inexplicable longing to approach it, as if it held answers to questions I hadn't yet asked. Before I could take a step, one of the light beings communicated to me, its energy pulsing with clarity and intention. You are not yet ready to enter. There is more for you to see, more for you to understand. Though I didn't know what lay ahead, I trusted their guidance completely. Their presence filled me with a sense of purpose, as if everything I had experienced in life, and in this journey, was leading to this moment. The beings directed my attention to the valley below. As I gazed upon it, the scenery began to transform. The landscape seemed to dissolve into patterns of light and energy, revealing an interconnected web that linked every living thing. I saw beams of light connecting people, animals, plants, and even the earth itself. Each beam pulsed with a unique frequency, yet together they created a harmonious rhythm that resonated through the entire valley. Through this vision, I came to understand a profound truth. Everything in existence is interconnected. The energy that flows through one being flows through all, creating a unity that transcends individuality. This realization filled me with awe and a deep sense of responsibility. I saw how every thought, action, and emotion has a ripple effect, influencing not only the immediate surroundings but the entire web of existence. The light beings conveyed another insight, one that struck me to my core. On Earth, much of this connection is forgotten. The focus on the physical obscures the truth of the spiritual, but the connection remains, even when unseen. To remember this is to live in harmony with the purpose of life. As I absorbed this truth, the vision shifted once again. I was shown humanity from a non-physical perspective, where the emotions and intentions of individuals manifested as colors and vibrations. Those who radiated love, kindness, and compassion emitted soft, warm hues that blended seamlessly with the surrounding energy. In contrast, those consumed by fear, anger, or greed radiated darker, more chaotic patterns that disrupted the harmony around them. The beings explained that these energies not only affect individuals but also the collective. The energy you carry within shapes the world around you. When you live in alignment with love and unity, you contribute to the healing of all. When you are consumed by division and fear, you create disharmony that echoes beyond your perception. I was struck by the simplicity and power of this truth. It wasn't about perfection or grand gestures, it was about the choices made in every moment. The small acts of love and understanding that ripple outward to create lasting change. The journey continued, and I found myself being drawn upward once more. Leaving the valley behind, the light beings remained with me, their presence a constant source of reassurance. As we ascended, I felt my own energy shifting, aligning more closely with the higher vibrations of this realm. It was as if I were being prepared for an even deeper understanding, one that would require me to let go of everything I thought I knew. Eventually, we reached another plateau, one that seemed to hover above an endless expanse of light. Here, the beings paused, their energy radiating a sense of calm and anticipation. They communicated to me, "You are about to witness what has been hidden, to understand what has been forgotten. Prepare yourself, for this truth will transform you." Though I didn't know what lay ahead, I felt no fear, only a profound sense of readiness. Whatever I was about to experience, I knew it would reveal the essence of life itself, the purpose behind every moment of existence. With the light beings by my side, I stepped forward, ready to embrace the next chapter of this extraordinary journey. As I stood on the plateau overlooking the expanse of endless light, the anticipation within me grew stronger. The 5 radiant beings remained by my side, their presence a source of unshakable reassurance. The light around us seemed to pulse gently, as if in sync with the rhythm of my own awareness. I understood instinctively that I was on the verge of an extraordinary revelation, one that would forever change my understanding of existence. The beings of light began to communicate, their messages flowing directly into my consciousness. Their words were not spoken but felt, as though they bypassed thought entirely and entered the core of my being. They told me that I was about to witness the essence of life and its purpose. Stripped of all illusions and boundaries, I felt my energy align with theirs as I prepared to step into what they described as the truth that binds all things together. The light around us intensified, and I felt myself being gently lifted from the plateau. It was not a physical movement but a shift in perception, as though I were being drawn into a higher dimension. The boundaries of my awareness expanded, and the familiar concept of space dissolved. I was no longer standing on the plateau but surrounded by an infinite expanse of shimmering light that seemed to pulse with life itself. As I adjusted to this new reality, I became aware of an overwhelming sense of unity. Every particle of light, every vibration of energy, was connected to every other. There was no separation, no division, only a profound oneness that encompassed everything. The light beings communicated to me that this was the true nature of existence, the eternal reality that underpins all of creation. You are not separate, they conveyed. You are part of the whole, a unique expression of the divine energy that flows through all things. To see yourself as apart from others is to forget the truth. All is one, and the essence of that oneness is love. The realization was both humbling and exhilarating. I felt myself dissolve into the light, not as a loss of identity but as a merging with something infinitely greater. My individuality remained, but it was now part of a vast and interconnected tapestry of existence. I understood that the boundaries we perceive in the physical world, between ourselves and others, between life and death, between the material and the spiritual, are illusions born of limited perception. The light beings then directed my attention to a vision within this infinite expanse. It was as though a window had opened, revealing the earth from a perspective I had never imagined. I saw humanity not as individuals but as a collective energy field, a vast and intricate web of connections. Each person emitted a unique vibration, their energy radiating outward and interacting with the energies of others. This web was constantly in motion, its patterns shifting and evolving in response to every thought, emotion, and action. I was shown how acts of love and kindness created ripples of harmony that spread across the web, strengthening the connections and raising the collective vibration. Conversely, acts rooted in fear, anger, or division disrupted the harmony, creating discord that reverberated through the entire field. The light beings explained that this interplay of energies shapes the reality we experience, both individually and collectively. You create your world, they conveyed. Every thought, every choice, every intention contributes to the greater whole. When you align with love, you bring harmony to the web of life. When you act from fear, you create separation. The power to shape reality lies within you. The vision shifted again, and I saw the earth as it was originally intended, a place of perfect balance and harmony. In this ideal state, humanity lived in unity with one another and with all of creation. The energy of love flowed freely, unimpeded by fear or division. This was not a utopia in the sense of perfection, but a dynamic equilibrium where every being contributed to the greater good. I felt a deep sense of sorrow as I realized how far humanity had strayed from this original design. The light beings, sensing my emotion, conveyed a message of hope. The connection has not been lost. It remains within you, waiting to be remembered. Every act of love, every moment of forgiveness, every step toward understanding brings you closer to the truth of who you are. As their words resonated within me, I was shown another vision. This time, I saw humanity's potential, a future where the web of life was restored to harmony. People of all backgrounds and beliefs came together, united by a shared understanding of their interconnectedness. Acts of compassion and generosity became the norm, and the energy of love flowed freely once more. This vision was not a distant dream but a possibility. One that could be realized through the choices we make every day. You have the power to create this reality. The beings communicated. It begins within you. When you align with love, you inspire others to do the same. The ripple effect of your actions can transform the world. The vision faded, and I found myself once again surrounded by the infinite expanse of light. The light beings stood before me, their presence radiating a sense of purpose and urgency. They told me that my journey was far from over and that there was still much to understand. They explained that the truth I had witnessed was not meant to be an abstract concept but a living reality. One that I was called to embody and share. You have seen the essence of life, they conveyed. Now you must live it. Your time on earth is not yet complete. And your purpose is to bring this understanding into the world. Remember what you have seen. And let it guide you in all that you do. As their words settled within me, I felt a gentle pull. As though I were being drawn back to the physical world. The light beings surrounded me, their energy enveloping me in warmth and reassurance. Though I was reluctant to leave this realm of unity and love, I knew that my journey was not ending but merely entering a new phase. With one final surge of energy, I felt myself descending through the layers of light, my awareness gradually narrowing as I returned to the confines of my physical body. The sensations of the material world began to re-emerge, the weight of gravity, the sounds of voices, the faint ache in my limbs. I opened my eyes to find myself surrounded by faces filled with relief and concern. Though I was back in the physical world, I carried with me the profound truths I had witnessed. I understood now that life is not about accumulating possessions or achieving status but about nurturing the connections that bind us all. The love and unity I had experienced in the light were not meant to be confined to that realm. They were meant to be lived and shared here on earth. This was only the beginning of a new chapter. One where my purpose would be to embody and share the eternal truth of oneness, love, and connection. The journey was far from over. And I knew that the insights I had gained would continue to unfold in ways I could not yet imagine. Returning to the physical world after experiencing the unity of the light was both humbling and disorienting. Though my senses gradually reconnected to the tangible realm, the feeling of weight, the pressure of air, the faint murmur of voices around me, I felt as though I were still suspended between two dimensions. My body was back, but my awareness remained deeply attuned to the profound truths I had witnessed in the light. As I lay on the ground where the accident had left me, surrounded by those trying to revive me, I realized something extraordinary. I could perceive both the physical and spiritual aspects of the scene simultaneously. The material world, with its dense solidity, was layered over a vibrant, pulsating field of energy. Every object, every person, radiated an intricate web of vibrations and light that I had not noticed before. I turned my attention to the people surrounding my physical body. Their emotions radiated outward in waves of energy, visible as shifting colors and patterns. Those who were calm and compassionate emanated soft, warm hues that blended harmoniously with the energy field around them. In contrast, those overcome by fear or panic projected sharp, jagged vibrations that disrupted the natural flow of the surrounding energy. The sight of my own body, lying motionless on the ground, didn't evoke fear or sadness. Instead, I felt a deep sense of curiosity and detachment. I now understood that my physical form was not my true self but a vessel through which my soul experienced the world. This realization filled me with a profound sense of freedom. The burdens, fears, and limitations I had carried throughout my life felt distant, as though they belonged to another existence entirely. It was then that I became acutely aware of the interconnectedness of everyone at the scene. Their collective energy created a shared field, a dynamic and ever-changing web that linked their thoughts, emotions, and actions. Each individual was like a thread in a vast tapestry, their energy contributing to the whole. This connection wasn't limited to the people present, it extended to the natural world around us, encompassing the trees, the earth, and even the air itself. The light beings, though no longer visible in their full radiance, remained with me in an ethereal form. Their presence was like a subtle hum in the background of my awareness, guiding my perception and deepening my understanding. They conveyed to me that this interconnectedness was not an abstract concept but a living reality. One that humanity had largely forgotten. This is the bridge, they communicated. The connection between worlds is not distant, it is ever present. What you see now is always here. Though few perceive it, the physical and spiritual are not separate, they are intertwined. Two expressions of the same truth. I began to focus on the injured version of myself lying on the ground. Though I had initially felt detached, a wave of compassion surged through me as I recognized the vulnerability of the human experience. My physical body, though still and lifeless, radiated an energy that connected it to my essence. The light beings helped me understand that even in death, the physical form retains traces of the soul's presence, like an echo of the life it once carried. As I directed my attention toward my body, I felt a magnetic pull, a gentle yet irresistible force drawing me closer. I understood that my journey in the higher realms had not ended but was temporarily pausing. There was still work for me to do in the physical world. Lessons to integrate and truths to embody. Though I yearned to remain in the realm of light, I knew I needed to return. Before descending fully, I was shown a vision, a glimpse into the essence of life's purpose. It was as though a veil had been lifted, revealing the intricate design of existence. I saw humanity not as isolated individuals but as a collective energy field. Each person contributing to the whole. The choices we make, the love we give, and the understanding we extend all ripple outward, influencing the web of life in ways we cannot fully comprehend. I saw how the smallest acts of kindness, a smile, a word of encouragement, a helping hand, create waves of harmony that resonate far beyond their immediate impact. Conversely, acts of anger, hatred, or indifference send shockwaves of discord through the same web. The vision reinforced the profound responsibility each of us carries, not only for our actions but for the energy we bring into the world. As this understanding deepened, the light beings shared one final insight before my return. The veil between worlds is thin. They conveyed, you are never alone. The connection to the divine is always within you. And the unity you experienced in the light is not confined to that realm. It can be lived, here and now, in the physical world. Remember this, and you will bring the light into every moment. With their guidance, I felt myself merging once more with my physical body. The transition was gentle, like slipping into a familiar garment after a long absence. My senses reawakened, bringing with them the weight of the material world, the heaviness of my limbs, the ache of injury, and the sounds of voices growing clearer around me. Though I was back in my body, I was not the same. The insights and experiences from the light remained vivid, etched into the very fabric of my being. I no longer saw the world through the same lens. Everything, the people, the objects, the spaces between, was alive with energy and connection. The love and unity I had experienced in the light were still with me, a glowing ember in the core of my soul. As I opened my eyes, I saw the faces of those who had gathered around me. Their concern and compassion radiated outward, forming a web of warmth and light that enveloped me. Though they couldn't see it, I felt the presence of the light beings still nearby. Their energy a quiet reassurance that I was not alone. The journey I had begun in the light was far from over. It had merely shifted into a new phase, one where I was called to bring the truths I had witnessed into the physical world. I understood now that life was not about the pursuit of material success or the avoidance of pain but about the cultivation of love, connection, and understanding. These were the threads that wove the tapestry of existence, the bridge between worlds. Though my body ached and my surroundings felt heavy compared to the light, I carried with me a profound sense of purpose. The connection I had experienced in the higher realms was not something to be left behind, it was something to be lived. Here and now, in every thought, word, and action, my journey back to life had only just begun. And I knew that the insights I had gained would guide me as I stepped forward into this new chapter of existence. As I lay on the ground, slowly regaining awareness of my physical surroundings, I felt a duality within myself. I was back in my body, yet my spirit remained deeply connected to the truths I had witnessed in the higher realms. This connection wasn't a fading memory but a living, breathing presence within me. The love, unity, and interconnectedness I had experienced were as vivid as the colors of the autumn leaves scattered around the accident scene. The paramedics arrived, their urgency clear in their voices and movements. They worked to stabilize me, asking questions I could barely process. My injuries, though severe, felt distant, as if they belonged to a different part of me. I realized I wasn't afraid. There was no fear of pain, no dread of the unknown. Instead, there was a calm, an unshakable peace rooted in the knowledge that life extends far beyond the physical. As I was loaded into the ambulance, I turned my focus inward. Though the light beings were no longer visible, I could still sense their presence. They remained close, their energy a quiet reminder that the connection between the physical and spiritual realms was unbroken. I felt a pull, a whispering invitation to reflect on what I had been shown and to carry its lessons forward. The ride to the hospital blurred into a series of sensations, flashing lights, muffled voices, the jolt of the ambulance over uneven roads. Yet within this chaos, my consciousness was vividly aware of the interconnected web of energy around me. I saw the paramedics' efforts not just as physical actions but as extensions of their compassion. Their intention to help radiating outward in waves of light. Once at the hospital, I was wheeled into a bustling emergency room, surrounded by hurried movements and clinical efficiency. As doctors and nurses worked to assess my condition, I observed their energy fields. Each person emitted unique vibrations, their colors shifting with their emotions and focus. I could see the harmony created by their collective intention to heal. Even amid the stress and urgency of their environment, despite the severity of the situation, I felt no panic. Instead, I marveled at the intricate dance of energies that unfolded before me. Every action, every thought, and every interaction seemed to ripple through the web of life, affecting not only those immediately involved but the larger field of existence. It was a reminder of the profound impact of even the smallest moments. Through the haze of treatment, I reflected on the truths the light beings had shared with me. The realization of interconnectedness, the understanding that love is the highest vibration, and the knowledge that every thought and action contributes to the whole, all of it began to take root within me. I felt a growing responsibility to live in alignment with these truths. Not as an obligation but as a calling. The hours turned into days as I underwent surgeries and began the slow process of recovery. My body was battered, yet my spirit felt stronger than ever. Lying in the hospital bed, I spent countless hours in quiet reflection, revisiting the visions and insights from my near-death experience. The memories were not fleeting, they were as vivid as the moment they had occurred, etched into my consciousness with unshakable clarity. One night, as I drifted between sleep and wakefulness, I felt a familiar presence. The light beings, though not visible, made themselves known through a subtle warmth that enveloped me. Their energy was gentle yet firm, a reminder of the mission they had entrusted to me. I understood that my return to the physical world was not by chance. There was a purpose, a reason why I had been brought back. The light beings communicated a simple yet profound message. Live the truth you have seen. Let your actions reflect the unity you now understand. Be a bridge between worlds, a vessel for love and connection. Their words resonated deeply, awakening within me a sense of purpose that I had never known before. My life, which had once felt ordinary and predictable, now seemed filled with potential. The experiences and insights I had been given were not meant to be hidden away, they were meant to be shared, lived, and embodied. As the days of recovery stretched into weeks, I began to notice subtle changes in how I perceived the world around me. Colors seemed more vibrant, as if the energy of life itself had become visible. I could sense the emotions of those around me not just through their words or expressions but through the energy they carried. Compassion and love radiated warmth, while fear and anger felt heavy and dense. These perceptions were not overwhelming, they were enlightening. They allowed me to see the depth and complexity of every interaction. Every moment, I began to understand that the choices we make, no matter how small, are opportunities to align with the greater web of existence. A kind word, a gentle touch, a moment of patience, all of these actions carried a significance that extended far beyond their immediate context. As my physical strength returned, I felt an undeniable pull to connect with others. I knew that the truths I had witnessed were not mine alone, they belonged to everyone. The love and unity I had experienced in the light were not confined to the higher realms. They were meant to be lived here. In the physical world, this realization filled me with both excitement and humility. I began to share my experience with those closest to me, family, friends, and the medical staff who had cared for me. Their reactions varied, ranging from awe to skepticism. But I noticed a common thread. My story stirred something within them. It wasn't about convincing them of my experience, it was about planting a seed of curiosity. A reminder of the deeper truths that often go unnoticed in the busyness of life. In those conversations, I realized that my purpose was not to provide answers but to inspire questions. How do we live in alignment with love? How do we nurture the connections that bind us to one another and to the world around us? How do we create a reality that reflects the unity we all share? These questions became the guiding principles of my journey. I didn't need to have all the answers. I simply needed to live the truth I had seen. One moment at a time. Whether through a kind gesture, a listening ear, or a shared laugh, I understood that every act of love was a step toward the harmony I had glimpsed in the light. As I left the hospital and returned to the rhythms of daily life, I carried with me a profound sense of purpose. The physical scars from the accident served as a reminder of my journey. But they were not a source of pain or regret. Instead, they were symbols of transformation, markers of the bridge I had crossed between worlds. Though the road ahead was uncertain, I felt a quiet confidence rooted in the truths I had witnessed. Life was no longer about accumulating achievements or avoiding discomfort. It was about connection, love, and the ongoing dance of energy that unites us all. With every step, I felt the presence of the light beings, a subtle but constant reminder that I was never truly alone. The journey was far from over. In many ways, it was just beginning, and as I moved forward, I knew that the truths I carried were not a burden but a gift meant to be shared, lived, and passed on, one moment, one connection, one act of love at a time. Returning home after my recovery was both a comforting and surreal experience. Familiar surroundings greeted me, the worn welcome mat at my front door, the creak of the floorboards in the hallway, the scent of old books lining my living room shelves. Yet, everything felt different. It was as if I was seeing the world through new eyes. Each detail imbued with layers of meaning I hadn't perceived before. Friends and family came to visit, their faces reflecting relief and joy at my return. Their conversations, once casual and routine, now held deeper significance. I could sense their unspoken feelings, the subtle energies that flowed beneath their words. Happiness radiated as a warm glow. Unspoken worries manifested as gentle ripples in the air around them. I realized that my heightened perception was not just a fleeting remnant of my near-death experience but a lasting shift in my consciousness. As I settled back into daily life, I felt a strong desire to reconnect with nature. One morning, I decided to visit a nearby park, a place I had often passed but rarely entered. The moment I stepped onto the grass, I felt an immediate sense of belonging. The trees seemed to welcome me, their leaves rustling in a language of whispers. The sunlight filtered through the branches, casting patterns of light and shadow that danced with a life of their own. I sat beneath an old oak tree, its roots grounding me to the earth while its branches stretched toward the sky. Closing my eyes, I allowed myself to simply be, to breathe in the essence of the world around me. In that stillness, I felt the pulse of life, the heartbeat of the planet resonating with my own. It was a profound reminder of the interconnectedness of all things, a living tapestry of which I was both a part and a witness. My thoughts turned to the people bustling about their lives beyond the park's boundaries. I wondered if they felt this connection, this underlying unity that binds us all. The light being's message echoed in my mind. You are not separate, you are part of the whole. I realized that my purpose extended beyond personal enlightenment. It was about sharing this awareness, helping others rediscover the connections that lay hidden beneath the surface of everyday life. Inspired, I began volunteering at a local community center. I joined a program that provided support and companionship to the elderly, a population often overlooked and isolated. On my first day, I met Evelyn, a woman in her late 70s with kind eyes and a sharp wit. She loved to talk about her garden, the flowers she used to plant, and the birds that visited her window. As she spoke, I sensed the vibrancy of her spirit, the rich tapestry of experiences that colored her life. Her stories were more than words, they were expressions of joy, sorrow, love, and resilience. Through our conversations, I felt the subtle exchange of energy, the give and take of empathy and understanding that connected us on a level beyond mere acquaintance. Evelyn shared with me her feelings of loneliness since her husband's passing. Rather than offering empty platitudes, I listened deeply, allowing her emotions to flow freely without judgment or interruption. In that space of acceptance, I witnessed a transformation. The heaviness in her eyes lifted slightly, replaced by a glimmer of light. She smiled, reaching out to squeeze my hand, a simple gesture that conveyed profound gratitude and connection. Word spread among the residents, and soon others sought me out for conversation and companionship. Each person I met taught me something new about the human experience, the hopes we carry, the fears we harbor, the love we seek to both give and receive. I began to understand that service was not a one-way street. It was a mutual exchange that enriched both parties. A manifestation of the interconnectedness I had come to cherish. Outside of the community center, I found opportunities to integrate these principles into all areas of my life. In the grocery store, I made a point to engage kindly with the cashier, recognizing the monotony they might feel during a long shift. On public transportation, I offered my seat to those who appeared weary, acknowledging the shared journey we were all on, even if just for a few stops. One afternoon, I encountered a man arguing loudly on the sidewalk, his anger palpable. Bystanders avoided him, crossing the street to sidestep the confrontation. Instead of walking away, I felt compelled to approach him with compassion. Gently, I asked if he was okay. Expressing genuine concern, surprised, he paused, his aggressive posture softening ever so slightly. He began to share his frustrations, financial struggles, a recent job loss, feelings of helplessness. As he spoke, I listened without judgment, offering empathy rather than solutions. Our conversation didn't miraculously solve his problems, but it seemed to alleviate some of his burden. He thanked me for taking the time to hear him out, and we parted ways with a shared sense of humanity. It was a small interaction, but it reinforced the profound impact of acknowledging and validating another person's experience. Throughout these experiences, I remained mindful of the balance between giving and self-care. The heightened sensitivity that allowed me to connect deeply with others also meant that I needed time to recharge and reflect. I continued to visit the park, finding solace beneath the oak tree that had become a personal sanctuary. In those moments of solitude, I reconnected with the universal energy, grounding myself and reaffirming my purpose. I also rekindled relationships with family members, some of whom I hadn't spoken to in years due to old misunderstandings. Reaching out to them, I approached each conversation with humility and a willingness to listen. While not every relationship was fully restored, the act of extending forgiveness and seeking reconciliation brought a sense of peace. It was a reminder that healing often begins with a single step, a willingness to open the door, even if the path ahead is uncertain. As months turned into a year, I noticed a subtle shift in the world around me. It wasn't that the world's problems had vanished, far from it. But in my corner of the universe, the seeds of compassion and connection were taking root. Others began sharing their own stories of reaching out, of choosing empathy over indifference. It was as if a quiet ripple was spreading, touching lives in ways unseen yet deeply felt. I was invited to speak at local gatherings, community groups, schools, and places of worship, where I shared my experiences and the insights gained from my near-death journey. My message was simple: we are all interconnected, and each of us holds the power to make a difference through acts of love and understanding. I emphasized that one doesn't need a profound spiritual experience to recognize this truth. It is accessible to everyone. In every moment, during one such talk, a young woman approached me afterward, her eyes filled with tears. She confessed that she had been feeling isolated and disconnected, questioning the meaning of her life. Hearing about the interconnectedness of all things had reignited a spark within her, a desire to reach out, to engage with the world rather than withdraw from it. We spoke for a while, and I encouraged her to follow that impulse. assuring her that even small actions could have significant impact. These encounters reinforced the realization that my journey was not about me, it was about the collective us. The light beings had shown me the profound unity that underlies existence. And it was now my role to embody and share that understanding. Each person who embraced this perspective became a beacon in their own right, contributing to a growing network of compassion and connection. Of course, not every day was filled with profound experiences. There were moments of doubt, times when the weight of the world's challenges felt overwhelming. But in those times, I returned to the core truths I had learned: that love is the highest vibration, that we are all connected, and that every act of kindness matters. These principles became my compass, guiding me through the complexities of life with a sense of purpose and hope. As I continued on this path, I felt a deep gratitude for the second chance at life, for the opportunity to learn and grow, and for the countless connections that enriched my journey. The near-death experience had been a catalyst, opening my eyes to realities that had always been present but unnoticed. Now, fully engaged in the dance of existence, I embraced each day as both a gift and an opportunity. The road ahead remained uncertain, but I was no longer daunted by the unknown. Instead, I was inspired by the infinite possibilities that lay within each moment, each interaction, each choice to live in alignment with the unity of all things. With an open heart and a steadfast spirit, I looked forward to the continued unfolding of this extraordinary journey. The months following my near-death experience became a period of profound transformation, not just for me, but for the connections I cultivated within my community and beyond. While the revelations of the higher realms had initially felt intensely personal, I began to notice how they resonated with the world around me. It was as if the truths I carried were quietly awakening something in others. A dormant awareness of the interconnectedness of life and the potential within every moment. One afternoon, I found myself in a small town hall, speaking to a group of people gathered for a community event. They were from diverse backgrounds: teachers, small business owners, parents, retirees, each carrying their own stories and struggles. As I shared my experience of unity, love, and interconnectedness, I noticed a shift in the room. Faces softened, postures relaxed, and an unspoken understanding seemed to ripple through the group. After the talk, a man approached me. His eyes were tired, but his expression carried a glimmer of hope. "What you said about every action creating a ripple, it's been on my mind for a long time," he said. "I've felt stuck, like what I do doesn't matter. But maybe I've been looking at it the wrong way. Maybe the small things are what matter most." His words struck me deeply, encapsulating a truth I had been coming to understand. The impact of our actions often goes unnoticed, but that doesn't diminish their significance. A kind gesture, a moment of patience, a shared smile, these seemingly insignificant acts can be the seeds of transformation, rippling outward in ways we may never see. As I continued sharing my story, similar conversations began to unfold. People spoke of the ways they were inspired to reconnect with themselves, their loved ones, and their communities. Some reached out to estranged family members. Others began volunteering, and a few even started their own initiatives to address local needs. It was as if the web of connection I had witnessed in the light was beginning to manifest tangibly in the world around me. One particularly moving encounter occurred during a visit to a local school, where I had been invited to speak to a group of high school students. At first, their skepticism was palpable. They were young, full of questions, and hesitant to believe in something they couldn't immediately see or touch. But as I shared the story of my near-death experience, the realization of interconnectedness, the importance of love, and the power of small actions, they began to open up. A young girl raised her hand hesitantly. "If everything is connected, why do bad things happen? Why do people hurt each other?" Her question hung in the air, heavy with the weight of unspoken pain. I took a moment to gather my thoughts, feeling the light being's presence gently guiding me. "That's a question I've struggled with too," I replied. "What I've come to understand is that much of the pain in the world comes from forgetting. Forgetting that we are connected. Forgetting that love is our true nature. But even in the face of pain, we have the power to choose differently, to remember, to reconnect, and to bring light where there is darkness." Her eyes softened, and she nodded quietly. After the talk, she approached me with a shy smile. "Thank you," she said simply. "I think I understand a little better now." These moments reinforced my conviction that the truths I had witnessed were not meant to remain abstract concepts. They were meant to be lived and shared. Each interaction, no matter how small, was an opportunity to embody the unity and love I had experienced in the higher realms. As the months passed, the ripples of connection began to spread in ways I hadn't anticipated. People who had attended my talks started organizing gatherings of their own, bringing neighbors and friends together to discuss how they could create positive change in their communities. What began as a personal journey was evolving into a collective awakening, a realization that the power to transform the world lies within each of us. One particularly memorable gathering took place in a community garden that had been neglected for years. A group of volunteers came together to restore it, planting flowers, vegetables, and fruit trees. As we worked side by side, laughter and conversation filled the air. Strangers became friends, and the garden became a symbol of what could be accomplished when people united with a shared purpose. At the end of the day, as the sun set over the freshly planted rows, one of the volunteers turned to me. "This garden, it's more than just plants, isn't it? It's about growth, connection, and creating something beautiful together." I smiled, feeling the truth of his words resonate deeply. "Exactly," I said. "It's a reflection of what we can achieve when we remember that we're all part of the same web of life." Beyond these communal efforts, my own practices of mindfulness and gratitude deepened. Each morning, I took time to sit in stillness, reconnecting with the energy of the light beings and the truths they had imparted. These moments of quiet reflection became my anchor, a reminder of the vastness and beauty of the interconnected web that underpins all existence. In these moments, I often revisited the vision of humanity as a collective energy field, each person contributing to the whole. I saw how acts of love and understanding strengthened the web, while fear and division weakened it. This vision guided me in my daily interactions, encouraging me to approach each moment with intention and compassion. The transformation I witnessed wasn't limited to the external world, it extended inward as well. I found myself letting go of old fears and resentments, replacing them with a sense of peace and acceptance. The small annoyances and frustrations of daily life no longer held the same weight. Instead, they became opportunities to practice patience, empathy, and love. Through it all, I remained acutely aware of the presence of the light beings. Though they no longer appeared to me in their radiant forms, I felt their guidance in subtle ways, a warm sensation in moments of doubt, a gentle nudge toward a particular choice, a sense of clarity when I needed it most. Their presence was a constant reminder that I was never truly alone and that the journey I was on was part of something much greater. The ripple effect of connection continued to grow, touching lives in ways I couldn't have foreseen. People from neighboring towns began reaching out, asking me to share my story and insights with their communities. Each new connection added another thread to the tapestry of unity that was slowly but surely being woven. I realized that my near-death experience was not an isolated event but a catalyst for something much larger, a collective awakening to the truths that had always been present but often forgotten. It wasn't about convincing others to believe in my experience, it was about helping them see the beauty and power within their own lives. As I reflected on all that had unfolded since my return, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. The journey was far from over, but I knew that each step forward brought me closer to the vision of unity and love I had glimpsed in the light. Together, we were building a bridge between worlds. One moment, one connection, one act of love at a time. The further I journeyed along this path, the clearer it became that my role was not to lead others but to walk alongside them. I wasn't a teacher in the traditional sense. I was simply someone who had glimpsed a truth and was now committed to living it. The more I shared my experiences, the more I realized how deeply people longed to reconnect with themselves, with each other, and with something greater than the physical world. One day, as I walked through the park that had become a sanctuary for my reflections, I encountered a man sitting alone on a bench. His head was bowed, his shoulders slumped as though carrying an invisible weight. Something about his presence drew me in, and I felt an inner nudge, gentle but persistent, to sit beside him. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" I said, breaking the silence. He looked up briefly, offering a faint smile before returning to his contemplation. "I suppose," he replied, his voice heavy with weariness. I waited, sensing that he had more to say. After a long pause, he sighed and said, "It's hard to appreciate the beauty when everything feels so empty." His words struck a chord, reminding me of the moments in my own life when I had felt untethered, disconnected from meaning and purpose. Without pushing, I shared a fragment of my story, how the experience of interconnectedness had transformed my perspective and helped me see the beauty and significance in every moment, even the challenging ones. To my surprise, he opened up. He spoke of recent losses, the weight of unfulfilled dreams, and the isolation he felt despite being surrounded by people. As he shared, I listened deeply, not only to his words but to the energy behind them. I sensed his yearning to be seen and understood, to find a way back to the light within himself. "You're not alone," I said gently. "It might feel that way right now, but the connection is always there. Sometimes we just need to look for it. Even in the smallest things, a kind word, a shared moment, or the way the sunlight filters through the trees." He nodded slowly, as though considering the possibility. Before I left, he thanked me, his voice carrying a note of sincerity that hadn't been there before. It wasn't a dramatic transformation, but it was a shift, a spark of hope that hadn't been there before. These encounters became more frequent, often unfolding in the most unexpected places. At the grocery store, a woman in line shared her worries about her family. On a bus ride, a teenager confided her dreams and fears. Each conversation reinforced the understanding that our lives are woven together by threads of shared humanity. These threads might be invisible, but they are no less real. The light being's guidance remained a constant presence in my life, not through grand revelations but through subtle reminders, a sense of peace when I chose kindness over frustration, a spark of clarity when I faced a difficult decision. They had once told me that the connection between worlds is always present, and I was beginning to see how true that was. It wasn't about reaching for something beyond, it was about recognizing what was already here. This awareness deepened my relationships, particularly with my family. Old misunderstandings and conflicts that had once felt insurmountable began to dissolve as I approached each interaction with patience and love. I realized that healing doesn't always require words. Sometimes it's enough to simply be present, to hold space for others and allow them to feel seen and valued. One evening, I sat with my younger sister, who had long carried resentment over a decision I had made years ago. As we talked, I listened without defending myself, focusing instead on understanding her perspective. In that space of vulnerability and openness, something shifted. She began to cry, and I reached out to hold her hand. "I see you," I said simply. "I'm sorry for the hurt I caused. And I love you." Her tears turned to laughter, and we ended the evening reminiscing about childhood memories. It wasn't a perfect resolution, few things in life are, but it was a step toward healing. A reminder that connection is always possible when we choose love over division. Beyond my personal relationships, I noticed the ripple effects of these principles in my community. People began organizing events to foster connection, potluck dinners, volunteer drives, and discussion groups centered on themes of compassion and unity. These gatherings weren't just about solving problems, they were about creating spaces where people could come together, share their stories, and feel a sense of belonging. One particularly moving event took place at a community center, where people of all ages and backgrounds gathered to share their experiences of kindness. A young boy spoke about helping an elderly neighbor carry groceries. A retiree shared how a stranger's compliment had lifted her spirits on a difficult day. Each story, no matter how small, was a testament to the power of connection and the impact we can have on one another's lives. Listening to these stories, I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey that had brought me here. My near-death experience had opened my eyes to a truth that had always been present but often overlooked: that we are not separate but deeply intertwined, and that our actions, no matter how small, have the potential to ripple outward in ways we may never see. As the event concluded, a man approached me with a question that stayed with me long after. How do we keep this feeling alive? He asked. It's so easy to forget, to get caught up in our own lives and lose sight of what really matters. I didn't have a definitive answer, but I shared what had helped me: daily practices of mindfulness and gratitude, moments of stillness to reconnect with the energy of unity, and a commitment to approaching each day with intention. It's not about being perfect, I said. It's about remembering, moment by moment, that we're all in this together. His question lingered in my thoughts, shaping the way I approached my own journey. I realized that the work of connection is ongoing, a practice rather than a destination. There will always be moments of forgetting, times when fear or frustration clouds our vision. But even in those moments, the choice to return to love remains. The journey continued, not as a series of dramatic revelations but as a steady unfolding of understanding. With each interaction, each act of kindness, I felt the threads of connection grow stronger, not just within myself, but in the world around me. The light beings had once told me that I was a bridge between worlds. And I was beginning to see how that role was not about grand gestures but about the quiet, steady work of living in alignment with the truths I had seen. Each day brought new opportunities to embody those truths, to weave the fabric of connection and unity a little tighter. And though the path was often uncertain, I walked it with a sense of purpose, knowing that every step was part of something far greater than myself. The deeper I traveled on this journey of connection, the more I began to appreciate the quiet, transformative power of simply being present. It became clear to me that while grand gestures of love and unity were inspiring, it was in the small, unassuming moments of presence that the most profound transformations often occurred. One evening, I visited a local hospice at the request of a nurse I had met during my recovery. She had told me about a patient named Arthur, an elderly man with no surviving family who was nearing the end of his life. He doesn't talk much, she warned me as we walked down the corridor, but I think he could use some company. When I entered his room, I found Arthur sitting by the window, staring out at the fading light of the day. His face was lined with age, his eyes distant, as though lost in memories. I introduced myself softly, and he nodded, gesturing for me to sit in the chair beside him. For a long while, neither of us spoke. The silence wasn't uncomfortable, it felt like a shared understanding, an unspoken acknowledgement of the weight of the moment. As the minutes stretched on, I began to sense Arthur's energy, not through words but through the quiet hum of his presence. There was a heaviness there, tinged with sorrow and regret, but beneath it lay a flicker of something more: resilience, perhaps, or a quiet hope that had not yet been extinguished. You've lived a full life, I said gently, breaking the silence. What's been most important to you? Arthur didn't respond immediately. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and raspy, each word deliberate. The people I've loved, he said, and the ones I've hurt. His words hung in the air, raw and unvarnished. I nodded, letting him know that I was listening, that there was no judgment in this space we shared. Slowly, Arthur began to talk about the joys and regrets that had shaped his life, about the relationships he had cherished and the ones he had let slip away. As he spoke, I felt the light being's presence, subtle but unmistakable. Their energy seemed to flow through me, creating a space of acceptance and compassion. I didn't offer advice or try to fix anything, I simply listened, allowing Arthur's words to flow freely. In that space of presence, I saw a transformation begin to take place. The lines of tension in his face softened, and the heaviness in his energy began to lift. When I left the hospice that evening, Arthur's parting words stayed with me. Thank you for being here. It's been a long time since I felt truly seen. His gratitude was a reminder of the profound impact of presence, the simple yet powerful act of being with someone, fully and without distraction. It wasn't about solving problems or offering solutions. It was about creating a space where connection could flourish. This realization began to shape the way I approached every interaction, whether it was a brief exchange with a stranger or a deep conversation with a friend. I made a conscious effort to be fully present. I set aside distractions, quieted my inner chatter, and focused on the person in front of me, listening not just to their words but to the energy behind them. One day, while volunteering at the community center, I met a young woman named Leah. She was quiet and withdrawn, her eyes avoiding contact as she shuffled through the food pantry shelves. I introduced myself and struck up a conversation, sensing her reluctance but also her need for connection. As we talked, Leah revealed that she was struggling to support her 2 young children after leaving an abusive relationship. Her words were tentative at first, as though she feared being judged or dismissed. But as I listened with patience and compassion, she began to open up, sharing her fears and hopes for the future. "I don't know how I'm going to do this," she said, her voice trembling. "Some days, it feels like too much." I didn't try to minimize her feelings or offer platitudes. Instead, I acknowledged her strength and courage, pointing out the resilience it had taken to leave a harmful situation and seek a better life for herself and her children. As our conversation continued, I saw a spark of determination return to her eyes, a reminder of the inner strength she hadn't fully recognized. By the time Leah left the center, she was smiling, a small but significant shift. It wasn't a dramatic transformation, but it didn't need to be. Sometimes, the greatest impact comes from simply being present, from showing someone that they are seen, heard, and valued. These moments of connection became a recurring theme in my life. They weren't always grand or life-changing. Often, they were as simple as holding a door open for someone, sharing a kind word, or offering a listening ear. But each of these moments was a thread in the tapestry of connection, a reminder of the light that exists within us all. One of the most profound lessons I learned during this time was that presence isn't just about being with others, it's also about being with ourselves. I began to cultivate moments of stillness each day, allowing myself to reconnect with the truths I had witnessed in the light. In those quiet moments, I felt the guidance of the light beings, their energy a steady reminder of the unity and love that underpin all existence. This practice of mindfulness deepened my awareness of the interconnected web of life. I began to notice the subtle ways in which our actions ripple outward. Touching lives in ways we may never see. A smile exchanged with a stranger might brighten their day, inspiring them to pass that light on to someone else. A moment of patience might diffuse tension, creating space for understanding and kindness to grow. The more I embraced this awareness, the more I saw how the light being's message was manifesting in my daily life. The interconnectedness I had witnessed in the higher realms wasn't confined to that dimension, it was alive and present here. In every moment, every interaction, every choice to act with love and intention. As these truths continued to unfold, I felt a growing sense of gratitude for the journey I was on. Life was no longer about striving for perfection or achieving grand goals, it was about embracing the present, honoring the connections that bind us, and living in alignment with the light that resides within us all. Each day became an opportunity to deepen that connection, to be a vessel for love and unity in a world that often feels divided. And though the path wasn't always easy, I walked it with a sense of purpose and hope, knowing that every step was part of a greater journey, one that was not mine alone but shared by all of us, woven together by the infinite threads of existence. As my journey unfolded, the threads of connection I had been weaving with others began to converge into something larger than I could have imagined. The truth I had witnessed in the light, that we are all interconnected, bound by the energy of love, was no longer just a concept. It had become a living, breathing reality, shaping every moment of my life. The quiet moments of presence, the shared stories, and the small acts of kindness had created ripples that reached farther than I could see. People in my community began to come together in ways that transcended the divisions of age, culture, and circumstance. What had once been a collection of individuals was transforming into a collective, each person contributing their unique light to the whole. One day, I was invited to a gathering at the park where my journey of reconnection had begun. Families spread blankets on the grass, children played among the trees, and neighbors who had once been strangers greeted each other with warmth. There was no agenda, no grand speeches, just a shared understanding that being together was enough. As I walked among the gathering, I felt a familiar presence, the light beings. Their energy subtle but unmistakable. They weren't visible, but I could sense them in the harmony of the moment, in the way laughter and conversation flowed like music. Their message echoed in my heart. This is the unity you have seen. This is the love that binds all things together. I sat beneath the old oak tree that had become my sanctuary, watching the interplay of connections around me. A young boy helped an elderly woman carry her chair to a shady spot. A teenager shared a book with a younger child, pointing out pictures and laughing together. Two strangers struck up a conversation, discovering they shared a passion for gardening. Each interaction was a thread in the tapestry of unity, a reminder of the profound impact of simple acts of connection. As the day turned to evening, a small group gathered around to ask about my journey. Their questions were thoughtful, reflecting a desire not just to understand but to embody the truths I had shared. "How do we hold on to this feeling of connection?" one woman asked, her voice tinged with hope and uncertainty. I took a moment to reflect before answering. "It begins with intention," I said. "Each day, we have the choice to act with love, to listen deeply, and to see the light in others. It's not about being perfect or getting it right all the time. It's about remembering that every moment is an opportunity to reconnect with ourselves, with each other, and with the greater whole." Another man asked, "What about the times when it feels impossible, when the world's problems seem too big, and we feel too small?" His question resonated deeply. "Those are the moments when the smallest acts matter most," I replied. "A kind word, a helping hand, even a moment of silence to gather your thoughts, they all create ripples. You may not see the impact right away, but trust that it's there. The light you share, no matter how small, has the power to push back the darkness." The group fell silent, each person reflecting on the conversation. As I looked around, I saw their energy glowing softly, unique hues that blended into a harmonious whole. It was a reminder that the web of connection I had seen in the light wasn't something we needed to create, it was already here, waiting to be recognized and nurtured. As the gathering dispersed, I stayed behind for a while, letting the stillness of the park envelop me. The light being's presence was stronger now, their energy filling me with a sense of completion. I felt their message clearly: "You have carried the light forward. The journey continues, but the purpose remains the same. Be the bridge, live the truth." Their words filled me with gratitude, not only for the guidance they had provided but for the opportunity to be part of something so much greater than myself. My near-death experience had been a profound awakening, but it was the journey afterward that had truly transformed me. It was in the moments of connection, the quiet acts of love, and the willingness to be present that the truths I had witnessed became real. As I walked home that evening, I felt a deep sense of peace. The journey wasn't about reaching an endpoint, it was about living each moment with intention, honoring the connections that bind us all. The lessons from the light were not static, they continued to unfold, deepening my understanding with every step I took. In the days that followed, I began to reflect on the journey as a whole, from the initial collision that had catapulted me into the light, to the revelations of interconnectedness, to the ripple effects of connection in my community. Every moment had been a piece of a larger puzzle. Each experience, each insight, had contributed to a growing awareness of the infinite threads that weave together our existence. The light being's final message to me remained a guiding principle: live the truth. It wasn't about perfection or grand achievements, it was about embodying the love and unity I had witnessed, one moment at a time. It was about being a bridge between worlds, showing through my actions that the light isn't something distant or unattainable, it's within us, waiting to be shared. As I close this chapter of my journey, I know that the work of connection is never truly done. It is an ongoing practice, a daily choice to live with love, compassion, and awareness. And though the path ahead is uncertain, I walk it with the knowledge that I am not alone, that we are all part of the same infinite web, bound by the light that flows through us all. The question is not whether we are connected, it is whether we choose to recognize and honor that connection. The choice is ours, moment by moment, to bring the light into the world and to live as vessels of love and unity. The journey continues, and the light remains.